Hi, welcome to Better One Day at a Time. My mission is to better everyone's lives and give you the tools to create balance in your life. Today, we're going to be talking about compounding. What is it, and how you can take advantage of how powerful it is. I'll be talking about how you could use the power of compounding to ensure a better financial future for yourself and for your family. I'll go over examples of how the power of compounding will actually play out in various people's lives and how you can take advantage of that over a long period of time. Now, let's get into it. So, what is compounding? Compounding in its basic form is just earning more money in the future from your past earnings. So, for example, if I deposit $1,000 into a savings account that earns 10% interest annually but that doesn't compound, I'll earn $100 in the first year. Because of how simple interest works with non compounding principal, you're going to have your principal, which is the amount that you initially deposited in year one, that's going to double by the time year 10 hits, and you'll have $2,000. If instead of having a simple interest where it doesn't compound and you actually had an account that does compound, in the first year it's going to be the same. You're still going to get your $100, everything's going to be the same. However, in the second year, you're going to have your $100 that you already earned principal on that can also earn more interest. So how this is going to work is you're going to get your $1,000 that you initially invested plus your $100 that you earned at that first year. That $1,100 is then going to earn 10% interest from that. So as you can see, you're going to be earning a little bit more every year, and then eventually that's going to grow into a just exponentially growing function. By the end of the 10th year, in the compounding interest example, you would have almost $2,600 instead of $2,000. So over a 10-year period, it's $600 more, but that's going to grow even more as time goes on, because as you saw at the beginning, you only earn another $10 or so more at the beginning, and then you're going to increasingly grow more and more and more over the time. So compound interest works because it has time in the exponent of the equation. So what happens is as time increases, your exponent is going to get larger, and we all know how larger exponents work. So for a positive number greater than 1, every additional unit you're going to get larger and larger, and your rate of increase is actually going to keep growing. So in simplest terms, the longer you allow your amount to compound, the more and the faster your interest is actually going to be growing. If, however, we extend out our first example to 20 years, you'll see that the non-compounding account is at $3,000, whereas the compounding account is almost $7,000. So this is where we kind of start to see that gap start to form, where the compounding account is starting to take on a life of its own. In fact, the non-compounding account is less than half of the value of the compounding account. So you can see how this can really start to work, especially over longer time periods and time horizons where you really want to have that additional power of compounding. If we extend out our time period to 30 years, you'll see that our non-compounding account will grow to $4,000 in this linear growth formula. However, our compounding account will be at $17,500 almost, which is many times more, over 4 times greater than the non-compounding account. And in fact, it's going to be growing on an exponential growth. So as it keeps going longer in time, it's going to grow even faster and faster. All right, let's get into some examples. So we have Adam, Ben, Connor, and Dalton. So these are 4 friends. We're going to use them as examples, A, B, C, D. Adam, he gets to the job early. So when he's 15, he decides that he's going to get a summer job, and he wants to save up some money and then go on investing that later. So he gets a summer job and saves $2,000 and invests that into a 7% annual yielding index fund. We're going to use 7% because that's just the historical average for the last 50 years in the S&P 500. So not only is he going to deposit his $2,000 into a low fee index fund, but he's also going to deposit an additional $100 every single month into that same account until he's 22 when he graduates from college. So in total, Adam is going to have invested $10,400 of principal into his account. Now, we'll wait until later, until I explain the rest of these people, until we reveal how much his account is actually worth at the end of the period. All right, so Ben, he is a little later to the party. He had to pay off some student loan debt, and he began depositing $500 into an account when he was 30. So he deposited his account when he was 30 until he was 65, which is the age that most people are going to end up retiring. So after those 35 years, that's going to add up to $210,000 that Ben has actually invested in principal into that account. All right, next up, we have Connor. He took a little different route though. He decided that he wanted to become a doctor. So he went to school and then went to medical school. And unfortunately for him, he had student loan and he had medical school debt that he had to pay off. So he couldn't start investing until he was 45. Connor thought to make up for this, he wanted to invest $1,000 a month until he was 65 when he planned to retire. So over these 20 years that Connor's been investing, he will actually have added $240,000, which is actually more than what Ben did for over a longer period of time. Now, Dalton, who has watched this video and understands the power of compounding, and who is young enough to be able to take full advantage of it, decided that he was going to incorporate some of Adam's and some of the others' principles to try to see how much he could grow his value to. What Dalton did is he did the same thing that Adam did. When he was 15, he went and got a summer job and saved $2,000. Even though he was still taking classes and in high school and then went to college, he was still investing $100 every single month into this account. Dalton was doing this until he was 22, when he graduated from college and he was able to finally start increasing his amount that he was able to deposit every month. He actually increased this deposit amount quite significantly, the same actually as Connor, who was the doctor. So because he got a scholarship and didn't have any student loan debt, he didn't have to pay off any of that debt. Dalton was able to invest $1,000 from the age of 22 until 65 every single month. Over those years, he would have invested $526,400 of principal into that account over the time. So now let's look at how much they actually would have had in their accounts, seeing that they all actually decided to retire at 65 and take out all the money that they earned. First up is Adam, who, if you remember right, got the summer job and then was depositing $100 a month until he was 22. So he only invested $10,400 in principal, except his account is going to be worth over $250,000 after that period when he's 65. Now, that is some pretty incredible growth. So just imagine how large Dalton's account is going to be when he used that, and then it also was increasing his value over the course of his entire adult life. That's a pretty incredible rate of return. But let's take a look at Ben, who started a little bit later at the party. Ben, who, if you remember right, he started investing $500 a month when he was 30 until he was 65. A total of $210,000 has been invested from principal, and it's going to have earned over $900,000 by the time he's 65, just by adding $500 a month. I'm pretty sure that most of y'all can be doing that right now. I know a lot of people are going to say, I can't invest $500 a month, that's $6,000 a year. I'm going to be talking in a future video about how you can make sure that you can allocate enough funds to be able to make this a reality. Next, we have Connor, who decided to go to medical school and become a doctor. He started when he was 45 and continued to invest $1,000 a month until he was 65. So in total, he would have invested $240,000 of principal, which would have grown to just over $500,000. Not too bad. Connor was only able to double his initial principal because he wasn't able to take full advantage of that accumulation of exponential compound growth over a long period of time, as his time horizon was only 20 years. Right, lastly, let's take a look at Dalton and see what he was able to accumulate. Dalton, if you remember right, invested $2,000 that he saved from a summer job when he was 15, and then moved on to $100 a month until he was 22 when he graduated from college, and then invested $1,000 a month after that from when he was 22 until he was 65. He ended up in principal investing just over $500,000 in total. Over the course of his 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and half of his 60s, he was getting that compound interest over time. So from the time Dalton was 15, he was earning compound growth interest until he was 65. So on that money, he would be worth almost $3 million because he took full advantage of all of the power of compound growth. I want to illustrate something here. So if you take $1 when you're 20 years old and invest it into a stock market index fund at 7% interest, when you're 65, it'll be worth about $21. Doesn't seem like that much, but every single dollar that you waste when you're 20 years old costs you $21 in the future if you're taking into account that it's 7% interest. If you have $1 when you're 20 years old that you decide to waste, you could have put that into a stock market index fund, earning a rate of return on average of 7% a year. That 7% over the course of those 45 years will have earned you almost $21 by the time that you're 65. So what that means is every single dollar that you waste when you're 20 will end up costing you $21 in the future at that 7% rate of return. If you're able to, instead of earning 7% average, earn a better 10%, this is going to cost you almost $73 when you're 65. So imagine what some people who are earning a compound interest of 20 to 25% is going to cost them over the course of their life. So there are many ways to earn a better return than 7%. I'm going to be talking about those in a future video here, and hopefully those will inspire you to do some of the things that could potentially allow you to earn better returns than that in your future. There are many factors to take into account when considering that, so I'll devote an entire video to talking about that. Now, it's your turn to turn this knowledge into action, because without action, knowledge is useless. And as always, I greatly appreciate your support with this channel. By sharing this content, you are allowing other like-minded, driven individuals the opportunity to be able to grow themselves. So please like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to be better one day at a time. I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you.